I bet I can predict how your day goes. You say, how are you going to do that, Trent? You don't know the circumstances of my life. You don't know what I'm doing, what's going to take place. You're right. I don't know any of that. But in Proverbs 23:7, it says, so a man thinks, so he is. Or so a woman thinks, so she is. What you're thinking about and how you're thinking about your life ultimately will determine the direction and your actions. Your actions end up forming your identity. Your identity starts to form your ideology. Your ideology is basically your framework at how you're going to view the rest of this world. Well, my name is Trent Jenkins. Thanks for joining us for today's Daily Dose as we are talking about a godly mindset today. I want to read from you from Colossians chapter 3, and it says this. It says, since then you have been raised with Christ, set your hearts on the things above where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. So number one is we got to set our hearts on the things above. But then he says this, set your minds on the things above, not on earthly things. For you died and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. So it shows us this contrast between the earthly things of this world or godly things. We ultimately have a choice. Are we going to choose the godly things or the earthly things? Now, of course, God created so many great things for us here on earth, but those things are meant for our pleasure so that we can ultimately glorify Him, not so that we can end up fulfilling sensual, lustful, covetous desires in our lives. He's very clearly telling us that if you're going to end up living for me, then I need you to be thinking about things and situations in a way that I would think about them. You see, earlier I talked about predicting how your day is going to go. Now there's all of these different philosophies of positive thinking ultimately results in positive living. That's not what I buy into. I do think that if we focus our thoughts on the way that God would have us think about Him, and most likely trying to look at it in a positive light of how we can make a difference, then we can start to make a difference for sure. It doesn't mean our circumstances change. It doesn't mean all of the things revolved around the situations change. But when we focus our hearts and minds on God, when we realize that He's in control, well, then all of a sudden it gives me confidence that I never had before. I feel hopeless when it's just my actions or the actions of others around me that I got to trust that they're going to kill it. And believe me, I don't know that I think that a lot of people are going to kill it around me, but I know that God can. I know that He has all of these things in control. And when I set my heart and mind on Him and realize, God, I just want to serve You. I want to serve what You have for me. Then my entire perspective changes. You see, in life, we can get caught up in all the things that we're doing. I remember I was training for a 100-mile ride on my bike up in Northern California. And there's some really long miles. And I found myself, because I was thinking so much about it, that I was actually dreaming about it. And I found myself trying to balance myself on my bike, even in the midst of my dreaming. You see, we can get caught up about what we're thinking. And we need to make sure that we're checking ourselves, not thinking too much about all of the earthly things. Because it says that we need to put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to our earthly nature. So if there's a bunch of things in your own life right now that are keeping you from thinking about how God would have you think, it says that we need to kill those things. That if they are not of God, then they don't have any place in our mindset. We can't flirt with them. We can't make it think, well, it makes me feel better in this way. No. It says put to death. Like in Leviticus, they would end up bringing these animals for sacrifice. They would put their hand on the animal, essentially transferring their sin to the animal, and they would put it to death as though they were putting that sin to death. That's what we need to do with our earthly nature. Say, no more. I will not think that way any longer. I will think how God wants me to think because I am His child. Thanks for joining us for today's Daily Dose. Thanks for joining us for this Daily Dose. We would love to be able to hear other topics you would like us to cover. Put them in the comments below. And remember, like and subscribe.